Today on Exit Algorithms, we're joined by Chad Pearson, a seasoned logistics and technology leader with over 30 years of experience working with shippers, carriers, 3PLs, and tech providers. Chad currently serves as Executive Vice President of Sales at Business Process and Technology Solutions, or BPTS, a company leading the charge in back office automation and workflow services for the logistics industry. In this episode, we'll talk about how technology has evolved in logistics, the real world impact of AI and automation, and practical strategies business owners can use to implement these tools without overwhelming their teams. We'll also look ahead at the trends shaping the future of logistics and how companies can stay competitive in this rapidly changing market we're in. Welcome to the podcast, Chad.
Thanks so much, Pete. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, great to have you. I've been really looking forward to this. With your expansive background in logistics, going back, I don't need to age or anything, but going back to the 90s, I loved your perspective on things. I wanted to start off by just asking a bit about your background and sort of find out what inspired you to focus on technology in this space.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I have a degree in logistics from Penn State, and when I first got done with school, um, logistics was really an emerging field, but it was still in its infancy. And during my education there was very little curriculum related to technology application, but it was something that I thought would differentiate me in the marketplace when I went out and started doing the job search. So I remember doing some simple things like spreadsheets where we were calculating operating ratios for a carrier, but not a whole lot of practical business application type um, things that were taught in the curriculum. And I actually wrote back to the school and told them they needed to get on board with that. And um, that vision actually came to fruition.
Nice. Yeah, and couldn't have been more spot on with where it was heading. I'd love to hear, you've worked across shippers, carriers, the whole gamut of the logistics space. What have been some of the biggest technological changes you've seen in your career?
Well, I guess I would say that I've seen significant advancements in the technology's sophistication and integration throughout the years. As the solutions have become more robust through my career, I've always been intrigued by the combination of business process, technology, and human talent producing the optimal results. Um, I found that folks find it difficult to keep up with the technology. It's moving rapidly, and understanding the scope of what's available and how it can deliver value. Um, so one of the things that I think has been interesting for me is that people are creatures of habit and become attached to their current process for completing tasks. And so introducing technology and processes changing what they do can be very challenging. And most folks think of technology as independently of process.
Mm, rather than kind of integrating.
Correct.
Got it.
And,
Yeah,
and
makes a lot of sense, and a clear value add that you provide. Do you mind
and I
sharing an example where you saw technology kind of really transform a business or add a lot of value to a client?
so I guess I had a couple things that I can share. One of the more interesting experiences I had was I was doing onboard mobile communications, and um, I remember taking GPS back in the mid 90s and integrating it with onboard computers, which was something that was really kind of cutting edge. Um, and I went to the DOT in Washington and I presented a solution for DOT logs. And during that discussion, the person at the DOT looked at me and pulled out their Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations handbook and said, um, it has to be to the maximum extent tamper proof. And the context there was that I had some limited edit changes that could be done. And I remember she got really upset with me because I picked my pencil up off the table and said, "Oh, you mean like this is today?" And she didn't like that very well. But really, again, it was challenging the thinking. And I said to her, I said, "I don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm just trying to get you to understand the context that we're talking." So, trying to think a different way is the piece that I've seen. And, nowadays people have their heads wrapped around technology more so than ever. But back in the day, there were a lot of folks that really didn't grasp that. Um, and the other example would be where I was implementing a TMS solution, and I did a seminar with folks teaching them how to negotiate contracts with their carriers. And the reality was that they had a process that was built around doing it manually, putting loads together. And now all of a sudden they had this powerful piece of technology that could optimize for them. And their contracts were point to point. And so I was coaching them on how to convert those into per mile rates so that the system could actually exploit that and come up with a better solution. So that kind of gives you a couple of stories about how technology transforms thinking.
Definitely. Yeah. Wow. What a perspective shift. I'm sure that conversation with the DOT must have been well before ELD mandates and
Oh
all
yeah.
the changes.
Yeah, the other story was I was with a salesman selling the TMS solution, and um, the people invariably would ask questions. Can you make it do this? Can you make it do this? Can you make it do this? And at one point, the salesman stopped the meeting and he looked at the prospect and said, "If I automate what you do today, you can do bad things faster." And I thought it was one of the most brilliant statements ever because it really speaks to that whole thing about process and technology.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, and speaking of which, I wanted to talk a bit about BPTS specifically. And BPTS positions itself as a premier back office automation and workflow services provider. I just wanted to hear kind of your perspectives, and you've been with the company close to when it's started, I believe, right? And
Yeah, I feel several. I joined several years after the inception of the company. Yes, correct.
okay, yeah, but yeah, just kind of what is BPTS's approach, and what is it? How does it differentiate itself?
So great question. So the logistics transportation industry is notoriously fragmented with thousands of carriers, brokers, shippers operating at vastly different levels of technology maturity. And so some leverage advanced technology platforms and API integrations, while others still rely on simple things like spreadsheets, PDFs, manual processes. And that diversity creates complexity for companies attempting to standardize back office workflows for things like billing, collections, audit, and data processing. So BPTS was purpose built to operate in the fragmented landscape. Our automation approach combines adaptable technology with configurable processes and dedicated support resources. So rather than forcing all partners to conform to a single rigid standard, we meet each one where they are, whether that it's integrating with sophisticated platforms or extracting and normalizing from unstructured documents, emails, etc. And so using our tool, BPTS Doc Extract for intelligent document processing, we do technology for pattern recognition and configurable rules engine for workflow automation and streamlining operations across a very diverse carrier and customer base. And this allows our clients to reduce manual touch points, improve data accuracy, and significantly reduce costs, all while maintaining an agile spot in the industry that changes daily.
Wow. Yeah, no, it makes sense. I can see a clear value add there. Do you mind, if you're able to share an example, in recent with one of your clients that delivered made some of these major cost savings?
So I'm going to remain a little bit generic because I'm under non-disclosure. And
Of
so I'm going to
course.
give you a painted picture of kind of across multiple customers across the industry of what we see. So
Yeah.
inside of many of the managed trans 3PLs out there, freight audit and payment is a big component of their service offering. And one of the challenges that they've got, this kind of drops back into what I was mentioning before, is there are still lots of invoices that are coming in via paper or email attachments. And in order to get those into their system, somebody has to do a data extraction and validation to get the audit process started. And so in those particular instances, we've seen situations where folks have large teams of people that are still doing that type of work. We've also seen companies that have hired temps to come in and do that work. I've been in a number of companies where they're printing out the invoices and then keying them back in and then scanning the documents back into their system. There's all kinds of manual stuff that we've seen. And so we streamline that entire process. And one of the other things that we do is we run pretty much 7 by 24. And so lots of folks like the fact that the work that we do can be done in the overnight hours, and it queues them up the next morning. It turns their operation into a 24-hour operation.
Got it. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Wow. Yeah, and it's crazy to think that a lot of businesses are still operating like that, a lot of manual processes.
Yeah, I think logistics and transportation is a little bit of a laggard compared to other industries. There's still kind of some old school thinking out there.
For sure. Yep. Yeah, that was a major theme at I think we met at the TIA conference, but they kept on honing in on that. Where logistics space is a little behind the curve.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah, I wanted to also talk about AI. There's a ton of hype right now around it. And I was just curious, your take, how is it actually changing logistics operations today, both strategically and day to day?
So I would say that right now that the way that the marketplace looks, there is lots of opportunity for AI to be deployed, and there is no doubt that it's rapidly reshaping the logistics landscape, offering the potential for significantly improving efficiency, accuracy, and decision making. However, the path to adoption is neither linear nor universal, especially in an industry as complex and fragmented as logistics is. So BPTS believes technology is a part of the optimal solution, and so we leverage those technologies, but we don't believe it's a complete solution for most business challenges. And it again comes back to that people, process, and technologies perspective.
Sure. Yeah, and integrating those things makes a lot of sense. You can't just completely autopilot, especially in such a service-oriented industry like logistics. And you mentioned challenges for adoption. What are those, you think, specifically, and why is logistics kind of holding out? Is it a difficulty overcoming some of those challenges?
So yeah, there's a number of reasons that there's barriers for adoption. I think the first one is the technological diversity that many carriers and logistics providers operate with dated systems or limited digital capabilities. And again, this depends on the size of the organization and how much their investment is. I think the second one is really data silos and quality. There's inconsistent formats, there's duplicate records, and there's really poor data governance that hinder automation efforts. So that would be the second one. The third one would be change management. We still see quite a bit in terms of operational resistance, and lack of technical skills can delay or derail the AI initiatives that are going on out there. And I think the last one is really cost and scalability. So mid-sized and smaller companies often lack the resources to invest in or manage large-scale AI platforms. So I think those four things definitely play a role in why there's barriers to adoption of AI.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely agree with that. You mentioned small to mid-sized businesses. I was curious, your opinion. What process would you say are most ripe for automation, especially for those smaller businesses that might not have a huge budget?
Well, I mean, I guess we typically work with folks that have a diversification of partners. So a lot of times it's smaller business partners that they're dealing with that are sending them things in a manual format. But one of the real low hanging fruit areas is really the data capture, and any kind of documentation with data capture. We do quite a bit of work in the track and trace arena. There's plenty of technology platforms out there to do that. However, they're kind of a cookie cutter approach, and the other thing that makes BPTS a little bit unique in the marketplace is that we tailor our solutions specifically to the need of the customer. So there's really nothing that we can't handle. And we see a lot of times where the technology is rigid and the customer says, hey, our customer wants X, and we put a solution in place that allows them to have that for their customer and deliver additional value.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that does seem attainable. That definitely makes sense. I wanted to also look ahead, sort of the next 3 to 5 years. What technology trends do you see most likely to reshape the logistics industry?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of emerging technologies out there, and as global supply chains become more complex and customer expectations continue to rise, logistics is emerging as a central driver of competitive advantage for businesses of all sizes. Um, and in the future, the importance of logistics will only grow, serving as the backbone for efficient e-commerce, global trade, and consumer satisfaction. Um, and I think the other thing that's going on now is the disruptions in the world from geopolitical shifts to climate events are becoming more frequent, and technology offers the agility and resilience logistics providers need to adapt quickly. Companies that can embrace digital transformation in logistics will be better positioned to reduce costs, improve service levels, and gain a sustainable edge in a highly competitive landscape.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And logistics isn't going away. Things are still going to have to be moved.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. So for business owners, looking to start with automation, AI, do you have any practical steps they might implement or to just get started?
So I guess my advice would be to start small. Um, and there's a couple areas that we believe strongly in. One is to leverage partners using experienced vendors who understand the logistics workflows and offer flexible solutions that can integrate with existing systems. Um, so you're not out there really being a guinea pig. You've got somebody that beginning to end is putting that solution in place for you. I share this with prospects all the time that that's what we do. The second one is designing for flexibility, building processes that accommodate both digital and manual input sources, especially in mixed technology environments like what we're talking about here today. Um,
Mm.
and then the last piece was really measure and iterate. So treat automation as an ongoing journey. Test, learn, and refine over time rather than aiming for a big bang transformation. We see this a lot of times where people want to jump to the end of the game, and oftentimes the suppliers come in and promise them the sun, the moon, and the stars. And a lot of times I start with people and I say, "Hey, let's start small. Let's demonstrate what's capable to be done, and show and get to know one another, and show you the results, and then we can go from there."
Definitely. Thank you. Yeah, no, that's huge. I think starting small and iterating, seeing what works. Um, yeah, going that way rather than trying to overhaul your whole process and teach your whole team a new way of doing things. I think it's slow change is usually more effective overall, huh?
And I think the other thing is in today's world, people more and more companies are thin. They don't have extra bandwidth. So while you're trying to implement a solution, you're also trying to run the core business. And that becomes very challenging as well, which um, leads back to trying to find a partner that can help you to do some of that heavy lifting so that you're not doing two jobs and working until 10 o'clock at night and all weekends.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, thank you so much for your answers, Chad. We'll wrap up here shortly. I just wanted to give you the opportunity. Any last comments, and where can people learn more about you and BPTS?
So yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to share more. You're welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I have a huge network out there. It's Chad Pearson at BPTS, and you can find me easily out there. Don't hesitate to send me a connection request. I'd love to share more with no pressure. We can certainly have a quick phone conversation. Um, and again, there's a lot of versatility to the things that we do. And the predominance of what we do is in the logistics space as well. So
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Chad. I'll definitely put everything in the show notes too, so it'll be easy for people to find you.
fantastic. Pete, I appreciate the opportunity. And I guess the only other thing that I'll share with people is that, continue to network out there in the marketplace. This is the other thing is the technology evolves quickly. Meeting industry connections and looking for opportunities to drive efficiency and cost reduction. It doesn't happen while you're sitting in the office. So stay connected with folks, and they'll share with you what's going on out there. And when you do get out there and start looking, um, make sure you understand that there really is no silver bullet. Evaluate opportunities with the understanding that um, you're not stepping into a lights out world of automation. People and processes are still very important, especially with the dynamics of the industry that we live in transportation and logistics.